Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F1 22 as always. And in today's video, I'm actually going to be showing you one of the first ever 25% races that I have done online. Until this point, I've really just been focusing on time trial and some 5-lap races, but now I've decided to dive into actually seeing what the tyres experience. And again, this is something that really helps me for my league racing, understanding how far you can push the tyres, if an undercut works, where to use the ERS to overtake people. These races contribute to that knowledge quite significantly. So as usual, I'm going to be showing you the entire race. So please let me know if you enjoy these longer videos and you enjoy seeing all the raw footage. As I said many times in the past, this is something I feel has really helped me in terms of my development and improving on the F1 games. And this race here, I just drove very, very well. And you can see we're using my Miami setup, which I actually released yesterday. I will be back to set videos hopefully tomorrow. Just feeling a little bit under the weather today. But as we come through to here, make a bit of a mistake, and as I said many times before, when you make mistakes, it's an opportunity for you to see how good you can actually come back from that, and that's something that really helps with the confidence. So I'm basically just going to be telling you what I was thinking throughout this race itself, and as the race went on, I felt I just drove better and better all the time. And I've seen this with other people's races who've already started league racing. Just knowing how to manage your race is incredibly important in this game. And I've said it time and time again, it is not always about pace. Obviously, pace does help, and if you can have that, then that is definitely a great bonus. But if you don't know how to manage the race in terms of your ERS, with your tyres, knowing when to push, when to be more conservative, or when to be aggressive or cautious, then I think those factors are sometimes a little bit more important than in itself. And we're going to spend a bit of time just talking about my experience of the game so far as well. And I'm really interested to hear what other people think. Are you enjoying this experience so far? What would you actually change in this game? Would you tweak the balance of the ERS, DRS, how the tyres work? Those things I will be commenting on a little bit further into this video. But yeah, I'm just really interested to hear what your experience has been of the game so far. But yeah, moving back to this video, we started on the medium tyre, so going for the alternate strategy. I'm actually using the ERS here just to be making sure I get past people, and the guy behind me called Destroyer kept on using his ERS button, so it kind of forces me to use mine. And now we've already discussed how powerful the overtake button is, and sometimes you got to know when to concede and when to use it. But I felt like my pace was a little bit faster than his, so I really wanted to try and stay ahead. Otherwise I felt I would just be losing more time than gaining. And you can see again, I'm being forced to use it here because he's going on the attack on me. And yeah, you can see because we've had 2 laps, so we really had to defend. We've actually lost over half of our battery percentage. And I think even on the exit here, I'm having to use it because if I didn't, then he would probably have quite a good opportunity to overtake me going into turn 1. So the goal is now is to try and conserve that battery for when I really do need it. Try and put a little bit of space between me and Destroyer. And you can see the guy up ahead already has a red light flashing, which, if you don't know what that means, that either means he's under 10% ERS, which he is, or he's run out of his deployment on that lap, and we actually managed to get through that quite nicely. And yeah, in this game, ERS is a big, big problem. Even seeing quite a lot of the eSport guys who are obviously incredibly fast tend to overuse their ERS a bit, and that puts them in a really vulnerable position, because if you're behind someone and their red light is flashing in front of you, you just have so much brake horsepower There's absolutely nothing they could do, and that combined with the DRS not being that powerful in this game, and same with the slipstream really as well. ERS is your main weapon in your armory, and if you can conserve that and get in the position or the track position you need to be, and you have even 10% more ERS than someone, then you've got an absolutely huge advantage. But yeah, in my opinion, I feel that there does need to be a little bit of tweaking with the DRS and ERS and the balance of the game. I would probably make the DRS 5 to 10% more powerful. Maybe make the overtake button 5 to 10% less powerful. Make slipstreaming a bit more powerful in itself. And I'm quite happy with how the recouping is, because at the moment you can't use it every single lap. But then it just makes it incredibly difficult to make progress. Because I can imagine in an esports race, if you're not qualifying well, you don't have that luxury of being able to come through the field anymore, because people could just defend with the ERS button. As simple as that. So yeah, I'd probably make it maybe a little bit easier to recoup the battery as well, because it seems to be a lot of people are having a lot of a hard time maintaining that and being a bit trigger happy when it comes to the overtake button, which for me personally suits me very well, because I always like to try and keep enough ERS as possible, and ERS is the main tool in your weaponry now. So yeah, it suits me very nicely. But yeah, I do feel there should be a little bit more tweaking to make it a bit of a better balance. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that itself. But you can see here we've managed to get back up into P12. You can see leaders are still quite a way ahead of us. We have this locking up motion, which is, it's not actually them locking up, it's just this animation that seems to be occurring, and I think you'll see it for every single corner. So like coming into here, yeah, you can see it again. It's a little bit of a weird visual we're getting, so hopefully that is fixed. So you can see, I think that's our first track limit warning. So I always try, and when I'm doing races such as this as well, is treat it like a league race. Not in terms of how serious I'm taking it, but the way I'm driving, I'm trying to ensure I'm as clean as possible, using my ERS in the way I would be in a competitive race, because this is going to be homework for me for when the race really does matter. And you can see we're not using it at all here, because I'm already within the DRS zone, and I'm just going to keep it on lockdown for now, as these people are going side by side. So let's see how we approach this. So making sure you hook the inside of this curb, just slow in, fast out. So he goes in a bit deep. And on the exit of this, do we use any of the battery? No, we don't, because we are in the DRS zone. There is absolutely no point using it right now. So in my mind, I'm just trying to conserve as much of the battery as I can, because I know how valuable that is. The guy behind me, TF Lynx, is probably going to get within my DRS zone, but that's okay, because the DRS is not that powerful. And I felt pretty confident I had a lot more ERS than others around me, because you can see Top Dog here is already on a red light, and he's under 10%. And you'll see his red light flashes again. There's a little bit of an instant with Marty, which is a shame. So I'm going to use the ERS here, because I know he's under 10%, and I'm going to get that much better acceleration. And I felt like I was faster than him in this stage of the race. So it's just knowing when to use it, but treat it very preciously. And that's why I do think qualifying, especially for F1 esports, or any competitive league really, is going to be very important, because I think nowadays where you can't qualify outside the top 10, or maybe towards the end of the top end of the top 10, like maybe 8th or 9th, and then have the luxury of having that race pace and coming through, because as soon as you use all your ERS to overtake someone, it's pretty much gone, and it's really hard to recoup back, as well as the Alfa Romeo. It's a bit of a nightmare there. And now we're actually up into P7, so just like always, just being patient, knowing when to pick your battles. And yeah, I felt I've been quite conservative with the ERS, but since we were pushed on those first couple of laps, you can see we're actually running quite low. Whereas if this is on F121, I'm pretty sure we'd probably be sitting at 80 or 90% ERS right now. So whenever I'm in the DRS zone, I'm not really going to be using the overtake button unless I see an opportunity ahead of me. And right now I'm behind a guy called Carl24, who is a pretty fast driver himself. We've got QRT Robbie up ahead, who's also another very fast driver. So I'm quite content here on sitting in their DRS zone. So on the exit of this corner, are we going to use any of the overtake button? The answer is no. Link's behind, doesn't have the DRS on me. So you can see Carl is using the overtake button here, but I'm not really too sure why, because he's not going to be close enough for the overtake. And you can see his red light is actually now started to flash as well. So just a little bit of an overuse. And you can see QRT Robbie, his red light is flashing. So ERS management is a big problem. And we've got about 40% ERS, which is a very good place to be right now. So on the exit of this corner, what do we do? Do we use the overtake button? The answer is no once again, because we just really don't need to. Because I'm looking ahead of me, and if I use it on Carl, then I've wasted 20% of my ERS. So I'm just going to let him keep using his, wait for him to get quite low, and then I'm going to pounce on that. So QRT Robbie decides to pit, and we continue on for another lap. So once again, I'm not going to be using the overtake button here as we always go deep into turn 1. So I'm just going to follow Carl because I know he's got quite good pace. And another thing to keep in mind in this game is that your tyres are very cold coming out of the pit. So in the first sector, you're not really going to get undercutted as much as you would do on previous games. So I think it's actually quite smart to keep the ERS for your in-lap. So if someone pits before you, really push on that in-lap, because you actually might get the overcut, and then you'll get the fresher tyres, and hopefully you'll have enough of no overcut that by the time your tyres are heated up, you're still within the DRS zone of those guys. So that's exactly what I am thinking here at the moment, as we're up into P5. Not that far behind the leaders. I think a few guys who were in the lead have pitted, and they started on the soft tyre, which I saw when I came into the pits. So on the exit of this corner, we're actually going to be using the overtake button, because I know he's quite low on the ERS. I know that he's not going to be using any of the overtake to defend with as well. So I know his red light is probably flashing, because I did see it flashing on the previous lap. So I knew I didn't have to use that much of the overtake button to get the move done. And let's see if he pits. I think the answer is yes. So I think everyone has now pitted now. And for some reason my username has changed, which is another glitch on this game, which we have had on previous games. But yeah, we're going to keep pressing on. And I'm going to use this lap to actually push quite hard to try and do a little bit of an overcut. So Carl was behind us. QRT Robbie did pit before us, and he was, I think, ahead of us as well. And one of the leaders, or a couple of people who are in the lead train, do have penalties as well. So I'm going to go for the fresher tyres and go push a bit more of the ERS in this lap. And you can see, if you look at my steering wheel, we're actually green in the delta, because unfortunately the sector times on the top right hand side of the screen don't seem to be working at all, which is a little bit of a fail, but hopefully they can fix that soon. So coming through into here, making sure we hit the inside of his curves like we said on the hot lap and setup. And this, again, this is exactly the same setup as I used for my Miami hot lap, and it's working incredibly well. So far I haven't really had to change anything from the TT to here, because I always try and make my setups as raceable as possible. So coming through into the end of that line, I think we are going to box this up. And if you looked at the delta behind, we were actually pulling away from people, so we have done a little bit of an overcut. But as we come into the pits here, I still have no idea how this works. So I think I'm just turning in too late. I haven't been able to actually do a good pit stop yet at all. So we've lost a bit of time here. So we've lost about half a second in this pit stop, which is not going to help our cause at all. Because at one point we were back in last in this race. So as we come out of the pits, let's see what has happened. And Kyoto Robbie does come out ahead, and we've actually done the overcut on car 24. So I think Robbie had a 2-lap undercut, and he's only just ahead of us. And I think we're going to try and get the DRS of this car ahead. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So get the DRS of this car ahead, which the detection point is here, using a bit of the ERS just to get a bit of that momentum, but we turned it off very quickly. And yeah, this has worked out perfectly. You see, Carl, we've actually done a massive undercut on him, and we got held in the pits as well. So that really has worked pretty nicely in our favour. And now the tyres should be heated up sufficiently. So we've just played this race very smartly, just knowing when to push, knowing when to be just that little bit more disciplined as well. So you can see on the exit of this corner, we're using a little bit again, and then we turn it off just to get that little bit of momentum. So I want to try and avoid links behind me getting in my DRS zone, because his tyres are going to be a bit warmer than mine. So I want to try and avoid having to use the ERS to defend with. That's the reason why I was using it there. So now I shouldn't have to use it again, because QRT Robbie has fresher tyres than Lynx, and Lynx is about 2/10 behind me. So I should be able to now just sit behind these guys and not use any of the ERS unless I want to go for the overtake. But the guy up ahead of me, Doran, is on medium tyres, so we should be a little bit faster than him. I was keeping an eye on Lynx behind as well, so he's not going to be close to the DRS zone at all. So on the exit this corner, what do we do here? So we actually do use the overtake button, because I didn't want to leave it until the last 3 laps or anything at all. I knew Robbie, just the red lights flashing, you can see how much that is really limiting his straight line speed, and we get 2 moves in 1. Now we're up behind the P3 man, who has 8 seconds worth of penalties. The guy in P2 has 5 seconds, and we have the freshest tyres out of everyone. And we still have over 20% of the ERS, which is actually a good thing. But then this guy, he lets us go, which is very annoying, because I wanted to try and overtake him with the ERS, which now means I have to use my overtake just that little bit to make sure I stay ahead of him. But you can see Spooder Elephant, who I think started on pole, is on medium tyres, and we've managed to get our way back up into P3. So now let's see what our real pace is on F1 22. I know the guy in second is actually quite a fast driver as well, but we do have a few lap fresher tyres than him. So let's see what our raw pace is like now, and let's see what that gap is. So the gap is 2.6 seconds to second, and 3.3, 7/10 gap behind. So let's see, how do we approach this? So on the exit here, do we use any of the overtake? No, we don't, because we are quite low ourselves, and I want to try and avoid being under 10%. Because if you go under 10%, you lose so much brake horsepower, you lose so much kilometers per hour in a straight line. I'm just trying to avoid that at all costs, and I felt confident that I could catch these guys up ahead of me, and I want to make sure when I get to them that I have the battery power to use, because it doesn't matter how fast you are really, and how much of a better exit you get. And even if you have the DRS, if I have under 10% and the guy ahead of me has 20 or 30, it's going to be so easy for him to defend against me. That's how powerful it is. So in my mind now, I've managed to get out of the DRS zone of the guy behind me without using the battery, because I knew even with the DRS he had on me, it wasn't going to be that powerful where he was going to be gaining 8/10 in a straight line. And I'm going to try and catch these guys up ahead of me without using the overtake button at all. So that is the goal. And so coming through into here, I could use the ERS here to get myself much closer, but then for the last lap I wouldn't have anything to use in terms of batting. So I really could have used it there, but as I said, I know how precious the ERS actually is. And even on the exit of this corner, we're not using the ERS. So again, just maintaining the discipline. And I think this is an error that people are making. They are just overusing the ERS too much and not realizing how powerful it actually is. So although I'm 4/10 behind, I felt since he's on mediums ahead of me and I'm faster than the guy in the lead, just trusting my own pace at this stage, so we can see how much we've actually closed in. So our speed is looking really good here. The detection point is on the exit of this corner. We've just gone through it here now, using a bit of it again just to get myself a little bit closer, just to build that momentum. And now we are within the DRS zone of the guys up ahead of me. So as long as I maintain myself in the DRS on the exit here, so using that extra grip for that later braking. And now we come on to the last lap of the race, and I think the guy ahead of me has his red light flashing. So we start the lap with 20% ERS, which you might not think is a lot, but most people are going to be under 10% at this stage of the race because it's so hard to recoup as well. So the goal is to get as close as I possibly can coming on to the steer straight. And the only guy I have to beat really is this guy in mediums up ahead of me, because the guy in the lead has a 5-second time penalty for probably speeding in the pits. So coming off the exit here, I know I have a lot more battery in him, so I've decided to use everything here. And you will see once again the difference in speed, because I'm running quite a high downforce level as well, and I'm under 10%, but with that momentum, you can see the speed that we are gaining here. The guy in the lead's red light is flashing as well, so going into it side by side, leaving some room. So nice fair play between both of us there. And now we're up into P2, and it's going to be quite even Stevens between myself and this guy, because we're both running quite low on the ERS now. And on the exit of this corner, you can see you don't really save much ERS in the corners. Using it on the exit, and doesn't look like he's putting up much of a fight. So we got in the DRS, and yeah, his red light's not even flashing, so I don't think he's really trying that hard, because he knows he's already got a 5-second penalty as well. And then we get the move done. So I always like to try and win a track, but we've done the last to first. And yeah, I think I just drove a very smart race there. Didn't need to be aggressive, knowing when I had to actually use the battery power, but also being very disciplined myself. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that. That was, I think, one of my first 25% races ever. Using the Miami setup feels absolutely great so far. Should be back with hot lap setups tomorrow. As I said, I was a little bit tired and under the weather today, but I really hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something from that as well. My one-to-one coaching is now open now from the 18th of July if you go to my website. And yeah, I really hope you're enjoying the game. Please let me know what your thoughts are of the game in terms of the balancing. What do you think they should improve? Please let me know what your opinion is. And yeah, thank you so much. Peace.